Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is the promised video where we are going to talk about sensitivity and what that means, and I'm really just going to talk about my own sensitivity and what it's been like and what it means for me and things that I do to help myself with that. So when I talk about sensitivity, a lot of people think that I mean emotional sensitivity, so like crying about every little thing, crying at Hallmark commercials, and I certainly do that sometimes, but that's not really what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about sensitivity in terms of being able to feel energy and being able to feel vibration, and energy and vibration come from everywhere and everything. Like literally everything has vibration. So if you are someone who is sensitive to vibration, you get overwhelmed. I'll talk about myself. I get overwhelmed easily, especially if I'm in a place that has a lot going on. So if I'm in a restaurant, restaurants are actually very hard for me because number one, lots of people, and I can normally feel emotions and I hear the conversations, and there are lights that irritate my eyes, and there's music blasting, and people are eating, and you know the sound of the forks scraping the plates, that bugs me. And then I can also normally hear more than one conversation going on at once, and then you're smelling the food, and then eventually your food comes out and you're also eating your food and trying to be present with the people at your table and entertain those conversations as well. And I am not a big fan of restaurants because it's just too much. I'm getting everything. I get everything. And there are people I know that are not that sensitive to this stuff, and I'm really just speaking to those of us who are. I think that sensitivity like this, where you pick up on vibration and you pick up on energy, is inextricably linked to psychic gifts. So a lot of you who will identify with what I'm going to talk about today may find that you have some kind of psychic gift. It may not be something that you've ever considered a psychic gift. You may not know that about yourself, but I'm talking about the clairs in particular. So clairaudience, clairsentience. Somebody sent me an email the other day and mentioned clairempathy. If you have one of these gifts, the chances are great that you are also very sensitive to lights or to sound or to smells or to all of the above. Now, me in particular, I'm very sensitive. We've talked about before, I don't wear perfumes. I don't like very strong scents in like shampoos and things like that. I get overwhelmed. I don't use hairspray. My hair is not looking great today, but I don't like smells, and I don't like chemicals, and I'm trying to detox the things that I use in my home, for example, because I have to have the windows open like all the time. If my husband cooks bacon or something in the kitchen, it drives me nuts. I can't stand very strong smells. So if I have any kind of smell good anything on, it's usually like an essential oil or something that I can dilute, that I feel like more control of it, and it's also natural. I want to also say that sensitivity is not empathy. Those are two totally different things. And when I'm talking about today, sensitivity, I'm not talking about being an empath. Those do also go together. So if you are a sensitive person, it's very likely that you are also an empath on some level. A lot of empaths are highly sensitive people. That's how they have their empathic abilities. So they do go together, but they're two separate things. So I'm not really talking about empathic abilities today. I'm just talking about being sensitive. And when I talk about it, I generally say I am asensitive, not I am sensitive. And this has to do with words and power, like we talked about the other day, that words are magical and words are powerful. And if you say, I am sensitive, it sounds like a flaw. It sounds like something's wrong with you. It sounds like you are ill. It doesn't sound like a gift, and it is a gift. It's an extraordinary gift. It's an ability. It's not an affliction. So when I talk about myself, I say, I am a sensitive. I am gifted in this way. I don't say I am sensitive. And that also allows me to take ownership of something that I have been able to recognize about myself and define about myself and learn about myself, instead of sounding like a victim to something that I can't help, because it's not that at all. Okay? I hope that makes sense. I'm noticing my forehead wrinkles in this video, guys. My goodness. Okay, so I have my notes over here, so you'll see me looking over at the paper. That's what I'm doing. So the first question I answered, what is sensitivity, comes in all forms. Some people are very sensitive to lights and not as sensitive to sounds. Some people are sensitive to all of it. For you, smells may be your thing. I just want you to know that this is very normal, especially for this crowd of people that I get on this channel and that I get emails from. If you're sensitive, if you're empathic, if you have psychic abilities, if you're leveling up, if you find that you are in some period of growth or expansion spiritually, if you're experiencing ascension, you will get more sensitive to these things. So things that you used to be able to handle, you may find yourself moving away from. Could be food things like caffeine, coffee, soda, alcohol, things like that you used to really love even. You might find yourself moving away from those. Could be something like a TV show that you used to really enjoy watching and now the subject matter bothers you. This has happened with me a couple of times because I tend to like murder shows, like forensic shows, because the science of them is very interesting to me, but I've had to move away from them because I didn't like the way that they were affecting me. And as we talked about in the words video, garbage in, garbage out, it's not something that I wanted to keep and hold in my psyche. So you may be experiencing that right now. Totally normal. Okay, so my first little bullet point here is about toxins in the home. And I have noticed in the past couple of years, I really can't stand, we talked about smells, but I don't even want those things touching my skin. So like bathroom cleaner is a big offender for me, and I'm looking over at my bathroom because I was cleaning my bathroom the other day. I really can't stand it. So I went to the store and I tried to find cleaners that were all natural. I actually found that was plant-based and smells like mint, and it's not an offensive smell, and it did a pretty good job cleaning, so I'm very impressed with it. I think it was Method brand. I don't know. I got it at Publix, and I don't know if you guys have a Publix, but pretty good cleaner. I should have written down the name of it, but I didn't. And I got some of you that sent me emails talking about using baking soda and bicarbonate and vinegar and citrus, like lemons and things like that. And I know that those things work. I have tried that in my kitchen before and didn't love the results. So I didn't do that this time. But there are a lot of home remedies, home things that you can do in your house to get rid of those toxins. So I'm in the process of getting rid of all chemicals, Windex, even air fresheners and things like that, because I do have little ones and they're walking around and they're smelling things. And I'm a big believer that some of the things that we have introduced into our modern way of living in the past 20, 50, 100 years are contributing to some of the diseases that we can't figure out why people are getting them at such an astounding rate, or why children are being affected with them now. I believe it's because we've introduced things like toxins and plastics and things like that into our homes. So we are in the process of moving those out, and I have to say I'm very pleased about it so far. I'm pleased about what I think are results so far. Also in our home, since we have stopped using certain things, we've seen a lot less colds, allergy type responses. So I just want to put that out there as well. Sometimes your allergy, or what you think is an allergy, may be a reaction to a chemical that your body is not meant to take in the first place. Seems like common sense, I know, but it wasn't something that I thought about until I started cleaning up our medicine cabinet and our under the sink, our cleaning supplies, that I realized, hey, that was actually a reaction to that really strong smelling laundry detergent, and now that that's out, I'm not having that reaction anymore. So something to think about. The next thing I have written down here is TV and movies and music and lyrics and conversation. So if you find yourself, like we talked about, not being able to watch those same TV shows and those same movies, that's okay. I want to encourage you to honor that about yourself. It means very good things for you spiritually. It means that you are having an awakening, or you are ascending, you are moving to a higher and better expression of yourself. So go ahead and let that thing go. There's plenty of other movies you can watch. You can be like me and watch kids movies or Disney movies and totally find pleasure and happiness in that. So let those things go. There may be people that you move away from because something about their energy bothers you now and it didn't before. There are songs that I hear now on the radio that I quickly change the channel. And the thing is, back to the words video, if you haven't seen the video on magical things, words, affirmations, please go watch that, because we talked about that a lot. When you're listening to music, I feel like you're taking that in. And when you sing along to song lyrics, you're proclaiming that over yourself. You're admitting that to be true about your life. So please be very careful if you sing songs about hurting people or yourself hurting or someone cheating on you or you cheating on someone else or whatever it is, please be careful about that, because you are speaking that. In essence, you're driving around in your car saying a spell over yourself. So please be aware of that, okay? Choose songs that are uplifting, choose songs that are happy, choose songs that are hopeful, optimistic, that make you feel good. Listen to classical music with no words if you want to. That's what I do. I love Beethoven is my favorite. I used to listen to Beethoven when I was a little girl in my grandparents' home. That's what I would fall asleep to. So I still listen to Beethoven on Pandora when I take naps and fall asleep. It sounds so silly, but I love it. So you might love it too. And then gossip and offensive humor. This was a big one for me because I have friends that I want to be friends for a whole lifetime, and that's not realistic. And some people are not going the same way that you're going. Their path is different from your path. Recognize when you need to step back from someone. If you're in a group of friends and you're in a conversation and the conversation turns to gossip, back away from that. You'll notice, I think if you're sensitive, you do notice how that makes you feel right away. And the good thing that you always have the power to walk away from that. Offensive humor is a big one for me. I've never been a fan of potty humor. I don't like badly drawn cartoons. Like Ren and Stimpy was a big one when I was a kid, and it's so gross looking to me. I cannot handle it. So it was never something that I really liked. You may find though that as you're ascending and as you are moving out of, moving into, I guess, more sensitive things, moving into your psychic abilities, you may find that those things do not appeal to you. They actually repel you. And I would just encourage you to listen to that, okay? You can trust yourself. You can trust your intuition. If something feels gross or negative or not something like something you want to take in, go with that. Don't take it in. Back away from it. It's totally fine. You don't owe anybody else an explanation. You just need to do what's good for you, and you can do that if it's a conversation with a friend. I feel like there is a way to say, I really don't want to engage in that kind of talk when that person is not here or whatever. I feel like there's a diplomatic, a tactful way to do that without hurting that friendship. The next thing I have written down is social media. This is a huge one. It's a really huge one for me. I find that social media puts me in a bad mood. It makes me grumpy, guys. It really does. And it's not because I'm actively looking on somebody's Instagram and saying, oh, she's got a great house, I hate her. I'm not like that at all. I love for people to win. I cheer for my friends. I think seeing somebody move up in life or have good things or be happy with their kids or happy in their marriage is a positive thing. But I think the social media itself, it's like watching TV all day. So chewing gum for your brain. So like we talked about in that other video, again, go back and watch it if you haven't. It doesn't allow you to be present in yourself in the moment, in the real world. So I think that it takes away a lot there. It also is always putting out electromagnetic waves and things that are dangerous to you. But it's very draining. I think that it drains your energy. It drains my energy. I'll say that. And I didn't realize that was happening until I would find that, I'm surfing the internet for an hour, and then I would feel like I needed a nap after that. And then I realized that this was the thing that was draining my energy. So for me, what I did, I downloaded this app that tracks my time online every week. And then at the end of the week, I get a little update. For me, this works because I love to I compete with myself. I want to do better all the time at all the things. So it tells me at the end of the week, you are down 10% from last week. Your screen time was this and this and this. You spent the most time on these apps. Because if it says I spent the most time on YouTube, that doesn't bother me as much because most of that is for work. Okay, so then I can see that I did my work and then I went outside, and that's a great thing. So I encourage you to step away from the social media because I think that it may be draining you and harming you, and you're not even realizing it. Weather. If you're sensitive to weather, this was a big one, and I didn't have it written down originally, but the more I thought about it, people joke about this. Those of us with psychic abilities a lot of times can tell when it's going to rain. We can tell when there's going to be a storm. Have you ever been to the ocean and you just know that something is moving in? You can feel it. And I don't know how to say that except to say that. I know that I live in Georgia, and if you go outside and the weather's a certain way, you can smell that it's going to rain. Like, that's a real thing. Maybe not everybody can do that. I always thought that everybody could do that. I have had relatives that could go out inside and say, you know, there's a storm coming, and it looks bright and sunny outside, and you would never know. You'd look at them like they're crazy, but sure enough, a thunderstorm rolls in 2 hours later, and they could tell before it came. For me, I'm very sensitive to barometric pressure. So I get headaches when the pressure drops. So that's how I can tell that it's going to rain or going to storm sometimes, is that I will get, it starts out very weak. It's just a little hint of a headache. And as the day goes on, it gets a lot worse the closer it gets to the storm actually arriving. So you may experience that and not even know that that's what's happening. If you're not somebody that gets headaches, maybe you want to monitor that and see maybe if there's some correlation. Because I don't get headaches, I don't get migraines, that stuff doesn't happen to me except when there's a change in the pressure outside, and then I get a headache. It's almost every time. That may be true for you as well. I don't have tips for that. I feel like that's just a thing we have to live with. If you're sensitive to the pressure outside, there's not much you can do except to take some ibuprofen when the headache starts. You know, drink water, rest, turn the lights off, that kind of thing. Lights inside your home. This was a big one for me that my husband totally didn't understand. I'm a Pisces, he's a Taurus. So I am very psychic and watery and emotionally up and down, and he's very stable and stoic and practical. So when I talk about spiritual things, he's very kind in that he won't stop me and say, that sounds crazy. But he also is probably in his head like, okay, sure, whatever. Because earth signs tend to like things that they can see, that are tangible, they can hold in their hands. And water signs, you guys know, we're very dreamy and in the stars and talk about spiritual things a lot. So, but I'm lucky that he, what's the word I'm looking for? He'll accommodate me if I have a request. So we had light bulbs in our home that were so bright, I could not handle it. I could not, like, I don't like for it to be totally dark because that feeds my anxiety, but I can't have it super, super bright either because it hurts my eyes. So bless his heart, he had to go to the hardware store one day, like 3 different times to get the right light bulbs. And he finally found some that had no blue light in them, and we found out later that that's because I'm sensitive to blue light. Some of you may be as well, and if you have an iPhone, I know that there's a button that you can push that you can turn the blue light off. It's that night mode. I keep my phone on night mode all of the time because that blue light is damaging for your eyeballs. It's not good for you, and if you're sensitive, you may be even more sensitive to that than a normal, regular, not sensitive human being. So that may be something you want to look at in your home, is changing your light bulbs to something that your eyes can handle a little bit better, because that affects your mood, it affects your sleep cycle, it affects things you wouldn't necessarily think that it would, but totally does, and it's an easy fix. Now we have lights that I can go in any room in the house and turn the lights on and be fine, and since nobody else is really affected by it, they're not bothered by it, it was just a really good, affordable, easy switch to make. The next thing I have is boundaries and grounding and educating. And this is really how I think we come to a solution on how to embrace our sensitivity while being able to be a part of the real world. Because if you are someone who goes to the mall and it makes you sleepy or it makes you cry, and that was me in high school, and my brother and I would go. I have an older brother and I love him so much. I totally worship him, really. So, and I did, especially when we were in high school. We are only 14 months apart, and he's a genius and really brilliant. And I'm that second born that's like, what are we gonna do today, Spike? You know, I was just happy if he let me come along with him. So we would go to the mall and hang out, and then I would be so drowsy by the time we got home, by the time we were going home, and I never knew what was going on. And now that I'm older and in touch with myself, I know that being around all of those people and all of that noise, and also trying to walk and also trying to have a conversation with him and pay attention to what was going on, and there were smells from the food court, it was so much. I was overwhelming myself, and then I would go home and have to sleep. So in order to be out in that real world of people that is full of smells and it's full of sounds, and we don't have any control of that, there are some things that we can do to keep ourselves grounded and stable. The first one is boundaries. This is going to come in when you have relationships with other people, and this happens a lot. If you are psychic, or especially if you are an empath, you will find that you, as a light, attract people. You may attract people who need healing. You may attract people who are broken or who are suffering or hurting. You may attract people who are sort of energy vampires, and they need that light and they will suck it out of you. And they don't do it on purpose, and I'm not saying anything ugly about those people, but if you find that this is happening, that people are coming to you for advice and help, and you are leaving these relationships or these encounters drained all the time, you need to set up boundaries. And what I mean by that is just to say, look, please don't text me between this time and this time. Or Mondays and Wednesdays, I'm off the grid, I'm totally quiet. I love you, but I'm not available. And that's very difficult for some of us to do. I know that it's very difficult for me to do because I'm always afraid I'm going to hurt somebody's feelings, and I'm always afraid they're going to feel like I'm not here for them if they need me, and that's not what I'm saying. But it is important to take care of yourself first, to have enough self-respect to say no when you want to say no. And that keeps you able to go out and do those social things because you're not overtired, you're not overworking, you're not giving more than what you can give. In terms of recovery, grounding, earthing is one of my favorite things and very easy and free to do. And earthing is when you go outside barefoot and walk on the grass, or walk on the dirt, or touch a tree. You connect with nature in some way that is physical, because the earth itself has vibration. The earth itself has a pulse and a heartbeat. And so the living things that are connected to the earth that we come from can help us connect back to our natural rhythms. And also, the earth will take some of that negative energy out. Does that make sense? So if you imagine that you have taken in, you've had an encounter with someone, or you've been out with all these people, and it's, you're tired and you're drained, and you go outside barefoot and you stand on the grass. Imagine all of that negativity flowing out of you. The earth absorbs it, and it's not damaging to the earth, okay? That's what the earth does for us. And then we are replenished by that energy, that pulse that comes back up from the earth. You may not believe in this, and that's okay, I don't need you to, but I encourage you to try it anyway. You will be, I think, surprised by how good you feel. There are several ways to ground. I live in a place where I can walk right outside barefoot and stand on the grass for a minute, put my hand on a tree, and feel connected again to that which we are all from. Okay, so it helps me a lot in like emergency, I need it right now situations. Go out and get fresh air. A really great way to ground is to submerge yourself in a body of water. Ideally, a lake, a stream, an ocean. If you live close to something like that, go take a dip. Just as often as you can, just as much as you can, especially if you're a water sign. This is really, really good for you. If you can't do this, there's not a lake or a body of water near your home, you can do this by taking a bath. That counts as submerging yourself in water. If you do take a bath for your grounding or for your recovery, then I would encourage you to put in things that also help with that. So like Epsom salt, pink salt. I do a thing I call a goddess bath, so I'll put some essential oils in there and some pink salt. They make mixes now that have Epsom salt and pink Himalayan salt mixed together already, so you can just drop that in there and then put some rose petals, light some candles, turn the lights off, and just sit and recover and rest and allow your body to be healed. And then educating, of course, watching videos like this, Googling, reading everything that you can get your hands on what it is to be a sensitive person. There's a lot that goes into this that, of course, I can't cover in one video, and I don't know everything about it. I just know what it's been like for myself. Stay away from the things that you know bother you and hurt you. Back away from foods, back away from situations, back away from TV shows, back away from social media. Anything that's causing you harm or that's making you feel drained or that's making you feel bad. Sometimes it can put us in a bad mood too. If there's something that you come away from feeling angry, feeling sad, feeling depressed, feeling anxious, notice that and try as much as you can to cut that out of your life. That does include relationships where it's possible. So, to summarize, being sensitive is not the same thing as being empathic. Being asensitive is something that I say because it allows me to feel like it is an ability, and it allows me to take ownership of a thing that I think is a superpower, not a sickness, okay? It is often connected to having psychic abilities. I believe that's because we are higher vibration who have psychic abilities, or well, who are in touch with our psychic abilities, because we all have psychic abilities. If you are aware of and able to use your psychic abilities, then I believe you're at a higher vibration than much of the planet at this time. So that means that you are going to feel many more vibrational and energetic things than other people feel, okay, and experience. So that's why those two things go together. That's the best that I can explain it. It's not the same as empathy, but again, empaths do tend to be highly sensitive people, highly sensitive persons as well. So I hope that I've talked about all of the things that you guys asked me about. I tried to make sure to make notes from your emails. I think that being sensitive is a really good thing. It's a wonderful thing. It's a gift. There are ways to use it to your advantage, and I will probably do a part 2 of this video to talk about that. But I hope this video has been informative. I hope that it's been helpful. Let me know in the comments if you are a sensitive as well. And if you are a highly sensitive person, let me know, are you also an empath? Are you also a psychic or intuitive? Have you grown into this? Have you always had it? Have you always been aware of it? What are some tips that you have to keep yourself grounded, to keep yourself feeling good? What are some tips that you have as far as cleansing your home or your area? I didn't even go over crystals and candles and things like that, so I'm definitely going to have a part 2, but that's where we started, and I hope this video was helpful for you, and I love you so much, guys. Bye-bye.